Some of you will have heard me say in interviews, in live streams, in Q&A sessions that after the disastrous events in Chiang Mai, Durianrider never made an effort to reconcile with me, never made an effort to apologize to me or patch things up or what have you. That was true at the time that I said it, but as you can see from this email on screen just now, recently he sent me some email with a more constructive or cordial tone. And I was very much surprised that, as you can see here, he says that he has tried to delete his old videos that were denouncing me, and he's here offering to go ahead and delete more of the videos. Now, of course, the damage has been done. I've drawn attention to this recently, that I still do deal with many thousands, probably tens of thousands of people who have a negative impression of me, to say the least, because of his campaign of defamation against my character, the allegations he made about me, and if you don't already know that story, you'll hear a little bit more about that in the rest of this video, as I'm including the interview I gave with Gawker Media. But obviously, this is a significant change in his behavior, and I appreciate that. Circled in red on screen, he asks, "How is Taiwan compared to Thailand?" And I did write back telling him that although Taiwan is probably the most successful country in the world for veganism, the number of vegan restaurants, even in small towns, is amazing. It's something of a hollow victory because we only see the success of veganism here as a diet, not as a social and political movement.
The whole thing was just a set of inherently implausible allegations, made in this over-the-top manner, that he was going to beat me up, take me to a police station, and then if the police failed to be appropriately brutal, they would brutalize me themselves. So, now again, if we were talking about a gang of neo-Nazis, I think you wouldn't be writing this article. If this was behavior from a group of neo-Nazis, you might just shrug and say, well, that's neo-Nazis for you. But these are vegans. These are people who literally preach that they would not hurt a snail.
I would say there's a place for drama and comedy, but to call people who aren't, or just to say someone's got HIV or someone tried to fuck a 15-year-old when they didn't, that's just not called for. There's someone's dog's missing and last seen in Cambodia snorting cocaine. That's just funny random shit, but when it's the intent is to just definitely slander, that's just wrong.
Well, I mean, you say that, but there's several instances, of you slandering people.
I'm gonna find it hard to forget that she tried to call me like a pedophile or chasing 15-year-old girls, or it's just pretty hard to forget. I'm a pretty forgiving person. I could see myself forgiving freely, but she's going to have to do a lot. She's just basically going to have to clear my name of the rumours that she started. I'm not sure if we're going to go to court over this or what I have to do, but I don't know.
So you're not just... You really think you'll go... You would, if you had to, you would take her to court for that and sue her for damages?
Yeah, I mean, she's going to continue that myth that I'm grooming girls for sex who are age 15, but I've never, ever on my life, on my mother's life, I've ever had sex with anyone under age 18. She's going to make those claims to her audience, which is a big audience. It's a female audience. That's pretty damaging to, we call it my brand or it's my reputation. So if he wants to play that game, what other choice do I have? If I don't take it to court, it makes me look guilty.
So he hasn't reached out to you since this kind of blew over a little bit?
Well, no, he's continued making angry, defamatory statements about me, like on YouTube and other places. So he has made statements to the public, including me, about what a terrible person I am. That never stopped. But no, he's never spoken to me privately. So that's a distinction. But no, the defamation has not stopped. He made a video that was allegedly apologizing to me, and the whole thing from start to finish is just one defamation after another. So, again, this is one of those things. Even if you only heard one side of the story, you would know he was lying because of the highly improvisatory way in which he lurches from one set of allegations to the next. So, as soon as he's done saying I'm a pedophile, he's saying that I'm a wife beater. And again, even if you didn't hear my side of the story, just the nature of the allegations is not credible. So that's what he's done. He's gone from one set of allegations to the next.
He's I was sort of flipping through his Ask Durianrider forum, and he attributed his making violent threats. Somebody asked him a question saying, like, I'm so disappointed that you've been making all these violent threats, and not referring specifically to you, but he attributed it to roid rage. And I was wondering if he had reached out to you to say anything about that, but I guess not.
No, I'm sorry. He's a really despicable human being. I mean, it's one set of excuses after another with him. And, he's done the same with the sex scandals and everything else. But no, I mean, next week he'll make up a different... I mean, before, his excuse was that he had been staying up until 2 a.m. and only sleeping for 3 hours. Or, he's made different excuses. But no, there's never been any sincere apology. There's never... No. No. So, sorry if that disappoints you, but no. He's been true to character.
No. I mean, yeah, that's not disappointing. So where did he... I think you might have... address this, but where did he get the idea that you contacted teenage girls online?
He just made it up. He made up a whole bunch of nonsense. Now, I mean, the other thing is, even in the screenshots of our conversation, I pointed out to him then, like, what is the meaning of the word contacted? So, like, for example, and I said this to him directly in our communication. On my YouTube channel, I have an interview with an 18-year-old university student about political activism. And there's nothing inappropriate about it. There's nothing sexy. And I give very good advice to that 18-year-old, about school. And I hate to sound boring, but when I talk to teenagers, which I do, I tell them to stay in school and stay out of jail. And Durianrider says the opposite. He's telling teenagers to drop out of school and do a lot of things that can put you in jail. So, I mean, I'm not ashamed of the communications I've had with teenagers. Again, some of them on my YouTube channel. So I was having like an hour-long discussion with an 18-year-old, and she was asking me, what's the best way to organize a political movement and how to agitate for social change. So totally above board. So, have I contacted teenagers? What is the meaning of the word contacted? This is a ridiculous allegation. Now, beyond that, Durianrider himself contacts teenagers all the time. He has a much younger following than I do. I mean, if you've seen my channel, my stuff is not aimed at a teenage audience. And a lot of his stuff is. So he has a video up right now where he's talking to a 16-year-old on camera. I don't think there's anything inherently evil about, an adult talking to younger children. Unfortunately, I do actually think Durianrider's advice is pretty terrible when he talks to younger people. You can see that for yourself, and you can draw your own conclusions. But no, I mean, the nature of the allegation to begin with was intentionally vague and obfuscatory and evasive. So, what do you mean contacting teenagers? Had I contacted any teenagers in Chiang Mai? No. I'd only been in Chiang Mai for 2 days or possibly 3 days when he made the allegations. So the number of people I'd talked to was incredibly small. But it was just like the whole thing was just a set of inherently implausible allegations, made in this over-the-top manner that he was going to beat me up, take me to a police station, and then if the police failed to be appropriately brutal, they would brutalize me themselves. So, now again, if we were talking about a gang of neo-Nazis, I think you wouldn't be writing this article. If this was behavior from a group of neo-Nazis, you might just shrug and say, well, that's neo-Nazis for you. If this was from a group of communist extremists, you might shrug your shoulders and say, well, that's par for the course. But these are vegans. These are people who literally preach that they would not hurt a snail. Right? And this is the way he's conducting himself in this movement. So if you've seen my videos, I wax, philosophical about this. But yeah, this is, egregiously damning. And this is, in many ways, I think, a turning point for the movement where people have to stop, wake up, and really think about what we've become. And I saw that when I was there. This had a much bigger emotional impact on other people than it did on me. Because a lot of people had to look into the mirror and say, is this who we are? Is this really what we've become? Because this is supposed to be veganism. This is not supposed to be a bunch of neo-Nazi thugs, right?
Right. So, why were you in Chiang Mai? Were you at the bike fest, or were you just did you just happen to be there at the same time? No. Like, what drew you there?
So, good question. I have answered it before, but I'm happy to answer it again. So I've been in and out of Chiang Mai for more than 10 years. Unlike everyone else in this equation, I speak the language. I speak Thai with a heavy Laotian accent. I lived in Thailand, Laos, Cambodia for years. I was a real scholar, a real specialist in that field. I realize my CV is boring, but you can read, I sent you a copy of my resume. You can look that over. I studied those languages. I studied those histories. I studied that politics of that region, both ancient and modern. I did a ton of research. I did humanitarian work, NGO work, whatever you want to say. I have a meaningful connection to the history, politics, and languages of that region, including the city of Chiang Mai itself. And that is deeply threatening to those people because they don't. They're shallow hippie tourists doing self-indulgent nonsense. So that is part of the tension of the situation. I already knew the city of Chiang Mai. Had been there before. Why I arrived when I did and left when I did, which had nothing to do with the festival, was that I had a job in China, in Kunming, China, where I am right now, and I was signed up to start language classes that I'm taking right now. And I needed to do paperwork, and I needed to go to a hospital. Some of the paperwork is done at a hospital, get my Chinese visa in order, etc. So there were really, practically for me, there were about two ways I could do that. One would be going via Chiang Mai. The other would be going via Nong Khai and Vientiane. I can get into details that are kind of meaningless. But the reality was I had a list of practical reasons to be in Chiang Mai for just a couple of days. Chiang Mai has a Chinese embassy, has a good hospital that I know, where they both speak English and speak Thai. And I could speak enough Thai to get by at that hospital, where I could get all that stuff done, and I could then get a direct flight from Chiang Mai to Kunming, which is exactly what I did. Above and beyond that, I had fans in Chiang Mai. Durianrider isn't the only one with fans in Chiang Mai. There were people in Chiang Mai who wanted to meet me. And so I went there. That was another reason to be in Chiang Mai rather than taking a slightly different route, going from Bangkok to Kunming. And I did meet up with them. I never attended a single Rotel 4 event. I never gate crashed. I never showed up at anything uninvited. I created my own events where I met people who already knew me on the internet and wanted to meet with me. That was it. I never once showed up at any of Durianrider or Freely's events. I never instigated anything in any way in that sense. But simply the fact that I exist is a deep challenge to their authority. I've mentioned some of the reasons for that already. I mean, if you dig around, the other reasons have to do with the pseudoscience of their diet. I'm one of the only people who came out strongly and said on the issue of Crohn's disease. Crohn's disease is an incurable disease. Translation, it is a disease for which there is no known cure. And what Durianrider has said about Crohn's disease is false. And he was deeply threatened by that, and he made a video directly responding to me and denouncing me on that several months ago. I'm sorry, I forget how many months ago that is. You can get the date if you need it by searching his YouTube channel. Just search for Crohn's disease, and you'll see the video easily enough. Where he again claims he cured it. So on that kind of issue, I also clarified, they claim that garlic contains a neurotoxin. That is false. I don't know if you've ever eaten garlic. Garlic does not contain a neurotoxin. So there were various hard issues of science as well as politics on which I've really been a very different voice within the vegan movement. As I like to say, real people do real things. So yeah, the fact that I exist at all is in some way a threat to him, and they responded accordingly. But no, I actually wasn't there to instigate the kind of ludicrous conflict that Durianrider himself did instigate.
Right. I know. So you mentioned that it's a kind of a small community in Chiang Mai. From your experience, can you sort of describe who you know of living there, like what that whole situation is as you know it, in terms of vegan expats living in Chiang Mai?
Yeah. Okay. Okay. Yeah. Look, there are three types of people there. Okay. There are people who are so young that this really is tragic, and this really is a cult-like movement that's going to devastate them for the rest of their lives. Okay. And you can be as polite about that as you want to be, but I talked to a young woman who dropped out of high school and moved to Chiang Mai to join this social circle, shall we say. Now let's not use the word cult, okay? You tell me anyone who dropped out of high school and does something, and you're going to say, what, this isn't going to impact the rest of your life? I know two examples, I think, both young females who dropped out of high school. I think so. Maybe I'm misremembering, but one for sure who I interviewed on my own channel. So you can see that interview on my channel, and we talk about it. And she's very philosophical about it, the one I interviewed on my channel. Other people dropped out of college. Other people just decided not to go to college. So there's some people at a young age where that's what impacts them. And you tell me what future they really have. I hope they wake up. Some of them do. Some of them turn their lives around and get a new perspective and take on a new direction. Others don't. Okay. Then there were middle-aged people who earned it. Like they had a normal job up to a point, and for some reason they fell into this ideology and sacrificed everything to join this social circle. Now, as an example, there's a channel called Joe Vegan. So just JOE space vegan. And he and his wife talk honestly about the fact they're now disillusioned. They're not true believers. They use the word cult. They say they're no longer cult members. But they just fell in love with this idea. They quit their jobs. They sold all their furniture. They bought bicycles. And they ran away to Chiang Mai, I think just 1 year ago. I think it was last year's festival. They were true believers in this. And then they had a kind of disillusionment experience where they woke up. And they themselves say, they make videos talking about this. What were we thinking? Like, what was our plan for the future? But those are mature adults. I believe they're over 30 years old. I'm guessing their age. Because these are middle-aged people. So even then, it's kind of sad, but the consequences are less serious. And then finally, there are people who are more of a retirement age who are making this choice. And I guess for them, the consequences are the least serious because, I guess for them, going on permanent vacation maybe has no such repercussions. However, I've got to tell you something. I thought my own grandmother was a bad person because when she retired, she just decided to play tennis and basically not to give a damn about the real world or its problems. I think that we all should do our part to make the world a better place. And I think we should work damn hard to figure out what our part is. That's one of the reasons why I'm vegan. And even if you're not vegan, I think you should feel positively motivated to make the world a better place. And what is so sick about the ego trip behind this permanent vacation cult is that they pretend they're saving the world. They pretend they're making the world a better place when really they're living a life of total self-indulgence. And that's the incongruous contradiction at the heart of this for all three age groups.
Yeah. So I want to actually take a step back for a second. You said in your interview with the Light Twins that suing Durianrider is not about your ego; it's about veganism. And what you just said reminded me of that. Can you explain that a little bit?
Yeah, you got all day?
Oh.